Meditative draggy sales pitch.
Render.
To cause, to be, or become. Make.
To do, perform.
To furnish, provide. To render aid.
To exhibit or show, obedience, attention, etc.
To present for approval, payment, etc.
To pay as due, a tax, tribute, etc.
To officially hand down, to render a verdict.
To translate into another language.
To depict as in painting, to render a landscape.
To represent a perspective, a view of a protected building in a drawing or painting.
To interpret, a part in a drama or a piece of music.
To give in return, to render good for evil.
To give back, restore.
To give up, surrender.
To cover, masonry with a first coat of plaster.
To melt down, extract the impurities from melting. To render fat.
To process as for industrial use, to render livestock carcasses.
To provide due reward.
To extract oil from fat, blubber, etc. by melting.
1275 to 1325, rondren, Middle French rondre, vulgar Latin, to grasp. Every research presentation is a form of rendering. It is a performance, a vision, a provision, an exhibition, a representation of ideas, possibilities, opinions, and facts. Every research presentation is also a sales pitch. This sales pitch pitches and performs good rendering of research by a researcher who is put in place or who has put herself in place to perform as legitimately and convincingly as possible her value as a researcher. She is also performing and proposing and pitching her worthy of the investment of your timeness. This requires good delivery, a good surrendering, a good melting down and a good first coat of plaster, with an invitation or a suggestion of what colours, stories, narratives, additional voices might be deliciously or disastrously layered on top of this. The rendering of research is a giving back, a restoring and a storing, and a handing down of one or more verdicts at once.
We are writing this on the train. I am writing this. I am sleeping. We are writing and sleeping alongside each other as the train brings us closer to where the research rendering will unfold. The events of the past few days and weeks and even months have rendered us exhausted. I am writing this as I am wondering whether we will be able to render out our research well enough to gain your respect. If our giving is enough giving back to you to warrant your attention, for research is also an exchange, your attention for this data for your attention.
Attention.
Tension.
We would also like very much if you could take this collaborative rendering as an invitation to ruminate, reflect, and meditate, both now and for a little bit beyond that. This is surely the wet dream of most researchers, but people who have been close contacts of the research will feel they have been infected by these research fragments, and that infection will last a while and show up every now and then in casual and not so casual conversations. The hope is that the research fragments will be viral enough to morph, to change, and be changed by each body in each voice that carries and transmits them. Each utterance or reference or remembering of any research fragment trigger is a re-rendering that takes on some of these ideas, possibilities, opinions, and facts. And at that point, the person picking up the research becomes a collaborator in the ongoing journey of that research. The ongoing rendering. Research picks up meaning as it meets traction, purchase, friction, and desire. Research is never done in a vacuum, nor is reading. the reading is every bit as triggering for this research as the researcher who brought it together.
We believe in collaboration as a way forwards. Our collaborators are alive and dead and not yet born. They are human and not human. Under ideal conditions, collaboration with researchers outside as well as inside the academy would be the norm. The stage would be set and conditions supportive of play, exploration, experimentation, conversation across disciplines, languages, contexts, and generations.
We are asking how research can be more useful and be a network that catches rather than excludes bodies of knowledge too often left out. Research that can be more generously created and co-created and shared. And, as researchers on the brink of finishing up with the student context, with no security of a job and uncertainty whether such a job will arise anytime soon, to generate income for its generators.
How can our ideas sustain us whilst allowing at the same time our research to become more infectious, remixable,
Redistributable,
and useful,
helpful,
relevant,
relational,
urgent?
graspable?
What if our research units could be generatively fungible?
A setting up of mutual beneficial, ever evolving and evolvable exchanges and reciprocity up for grabs to be taken up by others and put into new contexts, mouths, bodies, historical periods, tweets, Instagram posts, and future networks.
What happens if you cut the umbilical cord of researcher from research? What possibilities and potential could that present?
To which unintended and intended places and people could the research travel?
To be taken up,
Glitched,
dragged,
ruminated,
meditated on.
meditation as a holding space for learning.
How can we work together better? How can we do research differently? How can our research sustain us?
How can we do this better?
Like, are you posing?
Okay, we did it. That's it.